Okay, so I started to film this and realized it would take me an hour to go through everything, and I sound like the Charlie Brown teacher, so I know you don't want to watch that. So I'm going to try to be as thorough as I can here and go through it quick, but this may end up being just kind of like the need to knows, and maybe it'll be a part two, the advanced course later, I don't know. But so anyway, so this is the drone, obviously. To open it up, you just fold these back arms forward towards the camera, and then these arms fold just straight backwards. The gimbal protector, you just pop that off. You definitely want to take this off before you turn the drone on. The gimbal kind of does like a little range check whenever you turn it on, so I think it can bind up in this. So just take this off before you turn the drone on. And kind of along with that, you want to have it on fairly flat ground. Doesn't have to be perfect, but if you have it in real tall grass or something like that, it'll kind of, this little gimbal will get stuck. So you can have it in somewhere flat, or I just was testing earlier, you can just launch it out of your hand pretty easy. And it works just fine. So on the drone, you've got 3 directional obstacle sensing on this one. So you've got obstacle sensing in the front, obstacle sensing facing downwards, and then also facing backwards towards the rear. So 3 directional, the important thing to remember is there's none facing up, and more importantly, there's none to the side. So sometimes if you find yourself kind of like strafing or flying sideways, just remember there's nothing that's going to prevent you from running into something that you can't see to the side. After that, back in the back, you've got the battery that just these little 2 buttons on the side, you push, it pops out. Probably this came, I'm guessing, with like a dock. You can charge this in, or you can charge it while it's in the drone by using this USB-C port. This is also the port you can plug into the computer if you want to just download the pictures directly from the drone. Or there's also this memory card slot where if you put it in here, then the pictures will save to the memory card instead of so the drone has onboard storage. It's very small though. So right now it'll save everything to the drone, but I would probably just recommend getting like a 32 gig or 64 gigabyte memory card, put it in there, and then you can change the settings. Everything will save in the memory card. Even if it's saving on the memory card, you can still use this to plug it into a computer and download stuff, which is what I do at work, because it's just easier than having to fiddle with the little tiny memory card every time. I just use the USB-C cable, plug it in, and then drag and drop stuff from the computer. And I'll also show you another way to just do it directly on your phone too. I think that's it in terms of the drone part. So moving over here to the controller, I just unscrewed the joysticks from the back, and they were stored right there. Put them on here. I think you can probably just leave them on here. I was testing, and it fits just fine in the case. Just kind of slot it in there. The drone goes over here, and there's nothing that's gonna mess those up. So I would say just, you don't have to mess with it. Just leave them on. Going through the controller. So you've got your return to home and pause button here. So I'll go over that later. You have your 3 flight modes here. You've got cinematic, normal, and sport. Power button, your control sticks, obviously. Up here is your video record button and your camera button. So if you push this, it'll take a picture. If you push this, it'll start a video. The thing you'll quickly find out is if you're like let's say you're in video mode and you push the camera button once, it'll switch to camera mode, and then you have to push it again to take a picture. So again, to reiterate that, I guess if you're in camera mode, then and you want to take a video, you'd have to push this button one time. It'll then switch to video mode, and then you push it again, and it'll start taking the video. And you can push it to stop the video as well. So the first time you push it, it kind of switches between modes, and then actually triggers the action. Up here is your gimbal tilt. So turning this wheel will tilt the camera gimbal up and down. And then this one here is the zoom. So it's got a digital zoom on it. So you can do that to zoom it in. Back here is your C1 and C2 buttons. You can change these, they're customizable. Right now, one of them is set to just pivot the camera from looking straight on to looking straight down. So it just does like a quick change. And then the other one goes through landscape and portrait mode. So you push the other C button and it'll change the camera between these two modes. So the idea there is, I guess, the portrait mode kind of works better for like social media stuff. So Gwen can get her selfies on with portrait mode. So yeah, so the modes here. So normal is the mode you're probably going to use 90% of the time. C is cinematic. So what cinematic does, it slows everything down. It slows all the controls way down, and kind of dampens all the reactions so that the drone will just fly a lot smoother. And it slows the top speed down considerably too. And then sport mode does the opposite. It'll fly a lot faster. The thing to remember on sport mode is that I think all the sensors are turned off, so it doesn't have any obstacle avoidance sensors when you're on sport mode. So again, normal mode is kind of the go-to. So I guess quick controls real fast. The left joystick is going to be your kind of like your altitude control. So up on the joystick will make the drone go up, down just goes down. Left and right is the yaw. So left is just going to spin it to the left, right will go clockwise. It just stays in place, doesn't go anywhere, just rotates. So again, that's up and down and then turn. And then the right joystick is actually your actual like directional control. So everything is in relation to the camera. So forward will actually fly the drone forward, backwards, you know, left and right. Again, though, that's all in relation to the camera. So if you're like this, if you're behind the drone and the drone's facing the same way that you are, then it all kind of makes sense. Where some people get in trouble is if the drone is, you know, 90 degrees to you, and then you push forward, the drone's going to go that way, not you know, away from you like you might think. So again, it's all relative to which way the camera is. So forward here would go that way. You know, right here would go that way. Or if you yawed it back to get in line with you, then it all kind of makes sense. So especially for takeoff and landing, I typically will I would say recommend positioning yourself kind of right here where you're in line with the drone, so that way all the controls are a little bit more intuitive and they make sense. So next step here is turning it on. So all of the DJI products are the same. You push them one time to see the power level, and then you to actually turn it on, you'd push it and then hold it for 2 seconds and it'll turn on. So same thing with the drone. You could push it once if you wanted to check the battery status. But if you want to turn it on, you push it and then hold for 2 seconds and it'll turn on. Same thing for turning it off too. You'll push it and then hold for 2 seconds. So these are going to connect. That red is indicating that it's not connected yet, and then it just turned green. So now it's connected to the drone. This screen will eventually change over. Here we go to the flight app. Okay, so this is your kind of main flight screen. I'll try to go through this quickly. Okay, I just switched cameras because the other one you couldn't see the screen very well. So I'll go through that. Again, on the top left, you've got your in mode, reflects what our setting is here. Next is saying take off with caution, no GPS. That's because I'm sitting inside right now. If you click that, it kind of gives you more information. You can kind of scroll through and see if there's any errors or warnings or some basic settings. Like I mentioned earlier, there's no SD card in there. So right now it's set to internal storage, which looks like it's only about, I don't know, 1.5 gigs or so. To exit out of there, you can click on the sides or away from the window. Going across the top again, that's your drone battery life. So we're at 35%. This is the time remaining in flight. So right now it's 0 because I haven't turned the motors on yet, but when you turn them on, it'll start calculating how much flight time you have left. This is your RC controller strength. Your little symbol here is for your obstacle avoidance sensors. Again, those are off right now because the motors haven't started on the drone. And then how many satellites you're seeing. We're seeing 0 right now because I'm inside. So continuing through kind of the main menu screen here on the, we'll go on the left-hand side. On the left-hand side here, you've got this button is like kind of the auto takeoff button. So you could push that and then you would hold that for, I don't know, 2 seconds. It'll show a little ring and turn green, and it'll automatically take the drone off and go up to 1.2 meters and just hover there. Down here, you've got the map. Since we don't have satellites right now, it's not showing where we are, but if you did, it would kind of pinpoint you on the map. And then as you fly, it'll show a little breadcrumb trail. Here's gonna be your height. So this will be your altitude, your distance from the home point or from where you are. And then your, one of these is horizontal speed and vertical speed. So just how fast you're going. And then if you're going up or down, how fast you're going up or down. Across the bottom is how much storage you have left, so 355 pictures left for just internal storage. It's in JPEG format, and then some camera settings there. Going up here, you've got the shutter button, so you can push that to take a picture. Or like I mentioned, you can also push the top button as well to take a picture. It's on autofocus mode right now, which is, I would probably just say leave it. You could push that to switch to manual focus, and you can kind of tap around where you want to focus, but if you leave it in autofocus, it kind of focuses the entire picture. I will say that whenever you take a picture on these, usually if you it's like a regular camera, if you were to push, halfway on this top button first, it will refocus the image, and then you push the rest of the way to actually take the picture. So if you come out with a blurry picture, it may be good to check and make sure you're kind of doing like the focus first. This is the button I was telling you about that will switch to portrait mode. So you push that and it turns the camera on the drone vertical for all your selfies. And this will switch it to video mode or other modes. So you can go and click video mode, and then now it's in video mode, and you have your different video settings. Right now it's set at 4K, 30 frames per second. I would say, you can dive all into that stuff later, but that's kind of a good thing just to set it at for now. All sorts of different camera settings on here. There's probably a million videos and stuff online to go through all these. So I'll just say for now, kind of video, photo, and then when you're in photo, you can switch between different types of photos, but again, probably leaving it on basic photos, good enough. We'll do everything you need to do right now. And then down here, just like anything, is you can push this to review the pictures you've taken. So as long as the as long as the controller and the drone are connected, you can go in here and see what pictures you've taken. In testing this, I went and creeped on my neighbor's pool installation that he's getting put in. Let's see, what else? Moving from the main menu here and going into kind of the settings is this top right button. Little 3 dots, you click that and you've kind of got your different levels or your different areas here. So safety, control, camera, transmission, etc. So you probably don't need to mess with any of these things. I kind of went through. This is like the obstacle avoidance, whether what action you want it to do. When it senses something, do you want it to try to go around it, or just go ahead and stop, or do you want to turn obstacle avoidance off? You can pick whatever you want. I would say brake is probably the safest right now, because then it'll just stop if it senses something, and it'll wait for you to take over. Bypass is nice because it will automatically kind of go around it or up and over something, but it's not perfect. So if it's like a thin power line or something like that, it probably won't see it, and you just have a higher chance of running into something. So I would say maybe leave it on brake right now, and you can play with that later. Display radar map, you can leave it on. Really the only settings I think you would ever need to mess with is right here, and even these are probably fine for now. But so this is basically just your limit. So your max altitude. For the U.S. rules, it's in most other places, it's like 400 feet, 120 meters is the highest kind of you're allowed to fly without exemptions. So that's kind of about what that's set on right now. But if you want to go, chasing clouds, you can bump that way up. Distance is right now it's a little over, right at basically 2 miles, 10,000 feet. You can jack that way up. Really the important one is here. So auto return to home altitude. This is what happens if you initiate an automatic return to home, which is this button here. That's what action it will do. So it will first ascend to 213 feet and then come home. The important thing here is making sure this is always set above any, obstacles that would be in the area you're flying. So if you've got trees or like a cell phone tower or something, it's pretty much always just gonna make a straight, as the crow flies, line to you when you initiate return to home. So anything between you and the drone, you wanna make sure you're above that. So right now it's set at 200 feet. You can bump that up or leave it. If you're already above 200 feet, let's say you're flying around at 350 feet and you click return to home, then it's just gonna stay at 350 feet and it'll come home. This is only for when you're below this set altitude, then it will rise up to that first. Different calibrations for the compass and IMU. You probably don't want to mess with that, hardly ever. It's battery info, advanced safety settings. Probably don't need that either. Control. You can switch to units for you Canadians. You don't need any of that. Don't need really any of that. This is where you would go in and change your C1 and C2 buttons and button customization, which again, that's those buttons back there. Camera, this is all pretty much kind of a set it and forget it. Oopsies. Go back there, camera. All this stuff is set. You can play with that eventually, but I would say you don't have to do anything with it right now. When you put an SD card in there, I'm pretty sure it'll switch over automatically or it'll prompt you, but if not, this is where you can go over and tell it where you want it to store the pictures at. Transmission, you won't have to mess with that. And then about, you really won't have to mess with that either. The only thing would be like occasionally if you wanted to like check for updates, this is where you would do that. But to do that, you have to make sure this is on Wi-Fi or connected to the internet. Okay, so lastly, one other thing I mentioned, I guess a couple different ways to get the pictures and stuff off of the drone. Again, you can pull the SD card out of here. You can plug this USB-C directly into your computer. Or if you want to just transform directly to a phone, what you can do is there's an app called DJI Fly, looks like that. If you download that, then you can just, basically your drone will turn to a Wi-Fi hotspot and you can pull them directly from the drone. So there's a couple ways to do that. If I open this up, I think it would automatically prompt me, but I'll just kind of go through, like if you click this, the play button down here again, like you wanted to go and review your pictures, then this button at the top right will prompt you and it kind of gives you instructions for everything to do. So you could click that and it says, hey, how to connect, open the DJI Fly app on a mobile device. I think if you scan this, it'll automatically take you to the maybe App Store to download that app. I don't remember what the QR code does. Oh, there we go. Tap scan code on bottom of pop-up dialog and scan the QR code on the left. So it kind of walks you through everything, but I've already got the app installed here. So if I open this app, it already senses, hey, there's a drone here. Do you want to switch to quick transfer mode? I'll click switch. Do you want to join the Wi-Fi network? Click join. The controller now says, hey, aircraft is in quick transfer mode, connected to a mobile device. To exit, push this button. We're going over here back to the phone, click view album, and now you basically have all the stuff that you were seeing here over here on this screen. So you could see all your videos and stuff. You click the button and then you could just send it or download it to your phone, using the typical symbols. The only other thing that you might get that I didn't get because I had already connected before this was when you go to connect it on the phone the first time, it'll say hold the drone battery button down for 2 seconds to pair it, I think. And so you do that and then it'll show you all the prompts that we just saw here. Mine was just, I think you only have to do that the very first time you connect. All right, so I thought I'd film one more just quick video on kind of like a full rundown of what you would do if you're actually going to go out and fly the drone kind of start to finish. So first things first, you turn the controller on. Like you mentioned, it's push it and push it and hold it again. So the controller's on now. You're going to turn the drone on the same way. Take the gimbal protector off, unfold the arms. Same thing with the drone, push it once. Again. So you can see, maybe you can see, I don't know if you can or not, but right here, the drone doesn't have any satellites yet. So you want to wait until you get enough satellites so you get the message telling you that the home point has been updated. It's probably going to take a while. I kind of purposely put it right beside, it's kind of blocked by my house right now, so I was trying to get it on video before it locked satellites so I could show you this. So anyways, it's only got 4 satellites right now. It's probably going to take a minute because it just doesn't have very good visibility to the sky. But while it's doing that, the only thing I was going to mention is you want to set up the drone so that it's kind of in line with you. So right now, you know, the back of the drone is facing...
Aircraft entered altitude zone.
So the back of the drone's facing you, the front of the drone's facing away from you. That way all the controls are kind of in line, they make sense. So again, we still have 7 satellites right now, so it hasn't found us yet. It's up to 9, 10.
The home point has been updated. Please check it on the map.
So there you go. So that's the message you definitely want to wait and listen to, because that's what basically records this position, so that if you have to do like if you have a low battery and it automatically returns home, or if you just push the return to home button, then it will basically go straight up to whatever that preset altitude is, come back and land right there, you know, plus or minus. It's not exact, so I would, you know, make sure you have enough room. But yeah, so the home point is just records that position right there, and that's where it's going to come if it loses link or whatever. It's just going to come back and land right there. And yeah, again, make sure there's enough room, make sure there's nothing above it, and so that it can actually come back and land there. So now with all that set, you can either take off by, you know, pushing that button and then holding that takeoff button for 2 seconds, or you can do it manually. That's just pushing these both to the inside and holding there for about a second. And there you go. So now the propellers are spinning. It's not flying yet. If you wanted to turn that off, you want to stop it now, you just hold this one down. And now the propellers are stopped. So again, we're going to start it. And then take off. It's this left joystick, just straight up. And there you go. Kind of quick refresher on controls. This is just yaw, so it's just spinning. And then this one on the right is forward, backwards, actually traveling forward and back. So what you do is you go out and fly around wherever. We can go creep on my neighbor's getting a pool installed. He's supposed to have it filled up by by this weekend, so we can have a 4th of July party. We'll see how that's coming along. They put plaster in today, so it's making some progress, but I think it's going to be a stretch for this to be done. We'll see. The whole neighborhood's depending on it. Anyways, so you go out and fly around. Again, this is to tilt the camera up and down. So if I turn this wheel, you're gonna see it tilt down, tilt up, and then take a picture. You can push this button here. If you want to take a video, you can either push this to swap to video mode, or you can push this button here to swap to video mode. Kind of all the controls there you can play with, but I just want to do kind of a quick actual flight demo of what you would do. So coming back to land, so these are the kind of things you can do. You can either come back and land it manually, or like I mentioned, you could just hold this home button down and it would
return to home automatically. So let's do that. I'm gonna fly it away real fast, fly it kind of somewhere else, right? And then now if I push this,
Go home.
so now it's gonna come home back to that position. So this is the part I was mentioning. You really want to make sure when you set that return to home altitude that it's well above anything that it could possibly run into, so you don't hit something on its way back. I'm going to cancel this because I don't know how close it's going to be. Like I said, I started it pretty close to the house. Actually, it's doing all right. We'll let it go. So this is all automatic right now. Looks like it's going to hit that tree, so I'm just kind of giving it some manual direction, but it's still returning home automatically. And I like where it's at, and I'm gonna let go, and it's just gonna come back and land. So there you go. I went over that last part kind of quickly, but what I was doing is it was coming back on its own. It was the automatic return to home, but there was something in the way. So when there's something in the way during return to home, you still have some control. Like you can steer it left, right, forward, backwards to get around something that may be in the way. In fact, I think you can even push up and down if you want to slow the descent down. So you could push up and it would have kind of slowed down how quickly it was coming. Or you could also cancel. You could have pushed that little X button here. That was the cancel button. And a bunch of different options there. So it's supposed to be a quick video. It ended up not being very quick, but that was just kind of a quick rundown of actually flying it. And I'm sure I forgot a lot, but if you have questions, just let me know.